Alright, so coming out of the garage after getting the seats mounted, they look good. I just thought about one thing. Probably gonna have to take the driver's side seat back out, only because I haven't mounted the transmission cooler yet. So um, I need to get that mounted in. But before I do that, I'll probably clean up the garage a little bit. And still parts just everywhere, trying to find other parts and whatnot. So I'll get that cleaned up before I crawl up under the car and start marking locations on where I'm gonna mount the transmission cooler. So it's gonna go under the driver's side seat, or the floor pan on the driver's side, only because it's gonna be the single turbo. So I think from the downpipe that's gonna run under the passenger side, and eventually I'm gonna do a center exit, but there's not going to be anything on the driver's side. So that's where I think I'm going to mount the transmission cooler. So before I ordered this, I actually sent an email, or sent a message to was it Derale, or however you pronounce it. So I sent them a message just to see what they suggested. I told them I had an LS swap, 4L80E, and I don't think I was going to run the transmission cooler, or run the transmission through the radiator. So I told him it's going to be a standalone transmission cooler, not going through the radiator. What did they suggest? And then I think they got back to me and asked a few more questions, like what was the purpose of the car, street car, drag car, whatever. I told them it's just a street car. Might see the track every once in a while. I think they also asked for tire size and gear ratio. So they asked for all that. They sent back pretty much with this kit. So I believe it's part number 13960. So it's a pretty decent size cooler, I guess. I know the ones you usually put on the like behind the radiator and stuff are real small, but that passes through the radiator and through here. So this will be a standalone with its own fan. So I think it's going to do a pretty good job. Like I said, this is what they suggested, so if they suggested it, it should work. I think I might have to put a spacer, just a small spacer, in between the floor and the actual bracket, just to space it out a little bit. But there's a little bit of a gap there already, so we might be good. But yeah, I'm gonna climb up under the car after I clean some stuff up in the garage and hopefully get everything connected. I will have to make some more AN lines. I believe I'm going to go with the dash 6 or the AN6 lines. I know I have some extra line. I think it's either back there or still up under the car, so I should have enough. Once I get everything cleaned up and climb up under there and start mounting it, I'll take you guys under there and show you guys where I'm going to mount it and how I'm going to route the lines. Like I said, I'll probably have to take the driver's side seat out, and they look good in there. They look good. But yeah, I'll probably take the driver's side seat out, pull the carpet back, and I think I'll run the bolts through the floor. That way on the bottom, it's just I'll probably have to get some lock nuts. And so that way the bolts will be facing down. And then if I ever need to remove it or anything, I just have to worry about getting the nuts off instead of getting the bolts and then pulling the carpet through and everything. So the bolts will still be hanging through. And I think that's how I'm going to do it. So let me put the camera down. Oh, and another thing I did notice while editing a couple of the last videos, with the seats being mounted in, I realized that I didn't cut any holes for the seat belts. So eventually I'll probably just do the regular style seat belts in here, but I still have to order some. So it'll probably be black, if not black and white. So just to keep everything in the same color theme. But I just noticed I didn't open up the mounts or anything for the seat belt, so I will have to do that. And I'm gonna see how it looks without the center console for now. Later on down the road, I probably will build a center console, but for now, just try to run it as simple as possible, but still looking nice. So yeah, let me put the camera down, get some stuff cleaned up, and then we'll decide on where I'm gonna mount the transmission cooler. Alright, so climbing up under the car, I think I have the position for the transmission cooler marked out where I want it. It is a little close to this cable on like this back tab here, so I might have to trim that if it is hitting or anything, but I don't think it should be too big a problem. So originally I wanted to move it, yeah, wanted to have it up here. That's what I was thinking originally, but I started thinking about it and I was like, might want the lines to be a little bit longer. Then if I'd have mounted it here, it'd have pretty much been coming straight off the transmission into the cooler. So decided to move it back in this section just to give the lines a little bit more length, and so that way once all the fluid's going through, it'll give it a chance to cool off a little bit before going back in. So that's the marks I think I'm gonna have it at. So what I'm gonna do is get inside the car, probably take the driver's side seat out and see what's up underneath the carpet, if the seat mounts are going to be a problem in these areas or if it'll clear. The other thing was, I think this back one here, I might have to get a little bit of a space or run a couple washers in there just so there's not a gap in between the bolt and the mounting bracket. I also noticed, also mentioned that I was probably going to have to get some lock nuts. So the kit, it did come with all the mounting hardware. I believe the bolts should be long enough, and then it came with lock nuts, so I don't have to worry about that. Just drill some holes. I'll push the bolts through the bottom of the floor, so then the nuts will be on this side. So that way if I did ever have to take anything out, I just have to take the lock nuts off. So yeah, that's the plan so far. So let me stop talking up under here, go on top, remove the seat, pull the carpet back, and see if this is a good amount of location or if I'm about to move it. So the parking brake is keeping me from moving it any farther, but I could push that out a little bit, but who knows. For now it's gonna stay there. But yeah, that's it. Alright, so decided to move it forward. Moving it back wasn't an option, so I had to move it back forward. I know that's going to shorten the lines up a little bit, but what I'm going to try to do is have the inlet one on the closest one to the transmission, and have the outlet one the farthest away, so that way once it goes through the cooler and everything, it'll give it the most amount of time to cool down before it goes back into the transmission. So have it marked. This one here is right in front of the seat mount, so we'll be good. The seat mounts are pretty much right above the cross member, so these are good. There's nothing up here, so I'm gonna get the holes drilled, run the bolts through, and probably just have this mocked up into place. I probably won't tighten the bolts down all the way because I think some of them, like right on these edges with this ridge, might try to slide it over just a little bit and get everything remarked just so it gets off of this little crease right here. Everything else is good. So yeah, let me double check this one and then I'll drill the holes out and then get it roughed into place. Won't mount everything down right away, but we'll get it going. Alright, so got the driver's side seat out and gonna have a problem. So those top mounts are gonna be right in that middle beam right here. So that's gonna be a little bit of a problem. I'm either gonna have to move it back or farther forward. So I'll see if there's a spot I can move it back a little bit. I'll probably base it off of the hole for the seatbelt mount. So I know I have about 3 inches in front of it before I run into the back mounts for the seats. So see if it's flat enough under there or if it's gonna have to be moved forward. But if it's up to me, I'm gonna try to want it as far back as I can, just have the lines a little bit longer, but we'll see if that's the case. But yeah, that's gonna be a no-go. So I'll catch you guys back on once I decide on where to mount it. Alright, so seats back in, carpet's back laid in place. That means the transmission cooler is all mounted up, and I didn't want to move it too far back just so it's not hanging too low. And you see right there, it pretty much lines up with how low the transmission is. Might be a hair shorter or lower, but it's up high enough where I don't have to worry about it getting caught on anything or hitting anything. So that's mounted. I still have to work on wiring that up. Like I said, I still need I might run those to the front, just route them through the front, through the fender, and eventually I'll have a relay box up here somewhere. I'll probably do it on this side, make it easier. But I have a relay box running the fans, so if it's running the radiator fans, might as well hook it up to the transmission cooler fan and have everything ran off the same relay box, not the same relay, the same relay box. So I think they all take quite a bit of power. So once I run the power cable from the trunk up to a battery junction box, you'll have just 3 different terminals ran off of it. So you'll have the main one from the battery, and then one of the posts will run to the starter, the other one to the alternator, the third one, or the last one, will run to the relay box. So that's how I'll get power to everything. So that's how I have it planned. Like I said, it's that's when I'm going with the Hypercool 13960. So it was suggested from them. Messaged them, gave them some information about the car, and this is the one they recommended. So that's the one I got, and hopefully it does a good job. Even with the lines being a little shorter, I think it should be okay. I'll have to definitely keep an eye on temperatures when I'm driving it, make sure everything's fine, which I think it should be. But yeah, it's mounted up, so I don't have time today, but I'll do the dash 6 line. I have some left over from when I did all the fuel lines, so I'll do the dash 6 line. Still have connectors from hot rod fuel hose, so I'll use those up. Not too sure which ones I need, but I think I have a couple of the straights, a couple of the 90s, and a couple of the 45s, so we'll see which ones I need. I know when I put the transmission in, I mentioned I had the banjo fittings for it, so there's some room to play with in there. It's not real tight to the transmission tunnel, so I'll go over those once I do the lines and everything for it. But I know I'm jumping around on the build. I'm jumping around on it a little bit, but everything's coming together. I need to do one thing in order to do the next step on another. I did most of the wiring except for the underhood stuff, so that should be coming pretty soon since I got the alternator in, which I'm not sure if I'll need any of those for the alternator. I think I just need the starters, the ones for the starter for the most part. Um, yeah, it might be one for the alternator, but I think with the alternator, I got the Sloppy Mechanics one wire kit for it, so I think the other one will go from the alternator to the starter, or in my case, to the junction box. So I will need all that. So it'll only be a couple of the wires from there, but I will get back to finishing up the wiring. Like I said, it's all stuff that it's relative. So I know it's jumping around a little bit here and there, but it's all going to come together eventually. Like I said, everything's pretty much in a playlist, so most of the stuff for the Monte Carlo is under the Monte Carlo playlist, but stuff like the wiring has its own playlist. The motor stuff had its own playlist. So if I'm jumping around and you guys need to go in and see anything, just go to the channel, go to the playlist, and look through there. It'd be a lot easier than searching through a bunch of videos. But like I always say, if there's something I haven't done yet that you guys want to see me do or pay more attention to when I get to it, just let me know in the comments or hit me up on Instagram. And when I get to it, I'll try to focus on it a little bit more. But until then, that's it.